barely a week goes by where I don't have an MSP asking about top of funnel sales, lead generation, all of those kinds of conversations where it's like, hey, I don't have enough leads coming in. And when we get into it, we start talking about what's going on in their business, a couple of things come through. The first one is they do a lot of MSPs do marketing kind of by scattershot, right? They have an idea. I'm going to go do this thing over here. I'm going to do that thing over there. I'm going to do a little SEO. I'm going to do a little cold calling, like whatever that looks like. That's the first issue, and we'll address that in a different video. The bigger issue for me, and the one that's more foundational, is really defining your target client profile, because your target client profile helps identify who you should be aiming your marketing efforts at, which then allows you to get rid of that scattershotness, where it allows you to focus your energy on aiming at specific clients. So that's what we're talking about today, target client profile. In fact, this is more of a target client profile revisited video because I've talked about this once before. My name is Adam Hanneman. Welcome to Ramblings of a Geek. I've been in the MSP space for a better part of a couple of decades, and I've been across all of the different domains in an MSP, and I've spent a large portion of my last couple of years really working in and trying to understand the marketing and lead generation and those kinds of things. So that's what we're gonna kick off our conversation today, all about defining your target client profile to then allow you to focus your marketing and prospecting efforts. One of the biggest things that I like to talk about and really try to convey to MSPs during all the different conversations I have is this narrow target client profile is really important. When you think about your target clients, I want you to think about the one person, right? The one specific person you're aiming at, or one specific client you're aiming at. Because here's the thing. If you open your target clients to just everybody in the world, it's too broad. And so I want you to narrow that focus down. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to pick out a vertical, a company size, some attitudes around technology, those kinds of things. You're going to kind of figure some of these things out. And when you do that, it's going to allow you to focus your marketing efforts. And that's what we're getting at today, is really focusing those marketing efforts. So when you think about your target client profile, the first thing I want you to think about is, what industries do you like to support, right? If you're going to aim at picking up a bunch of clients that are in a specific industry, in a specific vertical, which of those verticals do you like, right? Which verticals do you dislike, right? The idea with the target client profile is to figure out where you want to spend time, right? So if you typically love lawyers, then you're going to hang out with more lawyers. But if you don't like lawyers, then you wouldn't want them to be in your target client profile, right? So the first thing in my mind is think about what industries you like to support. And really, it's what industries can you support well and efficiently, because the name of the game in the MSP space is profitability and efficiency. Those two things are married together. And if you can support a specific vertical well or better than others, then you want to aim at those industries to support, as long as you actually like working with those folks. So once you think about the industry, then you want to think a little bit about like the size of client and those kinds of things. Now, the reason why I care about size of client is more from the idea that clients of different sizes, as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, behave differently, have different requirements, are looking for different things from you as their MSP. So when you think about client size, I want you to really aim in on like a client span of about 5, right? So I'm looking for 15 to 20 person companies, or I'm looking for 50 to 55 person companies. You're not looking for 15 to 100, because the companies that live in that space, in that big swing, are dramatically different, right? A 10-person company behaves far differently than a 100-person company. But it's not to say that you wouldn't take a 10-person company and you wouldn't take a 100-person company. It's just that you want to aim your marketing and your prospecting at something that you know that you can support over and over and over again and do it really well. If you're getting some value from this video, please do me a favor, hit that like button. It does really help. So one thing that's worth mentioning is a little bit about company maturity mismatch, because if your maturity level is here, let's just say, and your client's maturity level is much higher than yours, what's going to happen is that you're going to have them kind of pulling you along, which can be a difficult thing to deal with, right? And it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but you need to understand that they may cause you some additional heartburn along the way and force you to grow and mature your business faster than maybe you were already going to. So just understand if there's a maturity mismatch where the client is higher than yours, that's going to be a challenge. Similarly, if their maturity level is under yours, you're going to be trying to pull them up to you. And when you're doing those kind of things, and you're running into those things. That's things like they don't have any kind of IT budget. They don't want to take your recommendations because it's too expensive, or they don't see the need in it, or whatever, or they're not going to lean into those things, or they're going to not pay their bill on time, right? Those are all things I've seen far too frequently to not mention here. So make sure that when you think about your target client profile, that you're aligning your maturities appropriately as well. If you're in a situation where you're trying to pick up a new client, and that new client's maturity level is again much higher than yours, and you want to go after it anyway, I think that might be okay. But just know what you're getting yourself into, right? Don't not go after the client if you think you can get to their level quickly. Just understand that you're going to have to lean into that. It may actually impact how you support your existing clients a little bit too. So just be mindful of those things. If there's a big maturity mismatch, don't be surprised if the relationship is a little bit more difficult to deal with than you expected to in the first place. The next section to think about a little bit is technology preference and those kinds of things, right? Do they like Macs? Do they like PCs? Do they have a mix? Do they use a 365? Are they Google Shop? Do they want to run some sort of hybrid exchange thing? Like think about the different technologies that you do better or worse at supporting, and then you want to aim at the ones you do better supporting, right? Those are very common and easy things to think about, or at least for me to say on this video. You really want to focus in on those technologies that you are good at supporting, right? So if you are a strong PC shop and you're not very good at Macs, then of course, aiming at a bunch of marketing firms doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you're a strong Mac shop and you like working with marketing folks and that kind of stuff works for you, then of course you're going to aim much more at marketing and creative areas than maybe, say, construction or in manufacturing, where they live more in the Windows world, right? Those are things you want to think about when you're defining this target client profile. The next thing to think about when you're thinking about target client profile is kind of the attitudes around technology, right? Do they see technology as a force multiplier for them, or do they see it as a necessary evil, right? Usually most companies are somewhere in the middle there, but think about what that looks like for you and think about who you can support well. Again, because target client profile, again, at its core, there are companies that you want to support and like to support and are good at supporting, right? Do not aim at a target client profile that you aren't very good at or that you have no experience with. If you are a very brand new MSP and you're going to pick one that you want to work with, but then learn about it as you go. Because the whole point of all of this target client profile stuff is you're really trying to set you and your company up for as much success and as much efficiency as you can possibly muster. When it comes to the industries that you support, there's a few things I want to talk a little bit about because, again, I think setting up or figuring out which industries you want to work with really makes a lot of sense at the top of the target client profile because, again, it's all about kind of setting yourself up for success, right? So if we think about an industry that you're good at, right? For example, I used to do a lot of support in school districts, K through 12 school districts, in a couple different areas. Well, I got really good at knowing the different lingo, right? I knew all about the standardized tests. I was actually pretty good at the Google stuff, and we knew how to support teachers, and we knew what their hectic schedules look like, and so we worked to build strategies around some of those things. So if I were to go talk to another school that was looking to bring on an MSP, I could tell them pretty quickly without even having to say, I know all these different things. I could ask them some smart questions and say, how did your last standardized test go? And did you run into issues with, too many devices, or what were the challenges that you had? And lean into some of those conversations. Well, every industry has those types of situations, right? Lawyers have lawyer type things that they talk about, right? They talk a lot about, discovery and litigation and some of those pieces. It's understanding those different pieces and understanding that the difference between a litigator law firm and a family practice or business law or contract law. There's lots of differences there. Every industry has a version of this, so it's really important that when you pick the industry or industries you want to work in, that when you have those conversations with those folks in those industries, you come off as an industry expert or at least knowledgeable about their industry, because that could help be an easy differentiator for you. Because if it comes down to a pick between you as an MSP that knows their industry and another MSP that doesn't know the industry, you're probably going to win more of those than you lose, right? So that's one of the reasons why picking this target verticals really makes a lot of sense. Another one of the big benefits of understanding which verticals you want to support and having a defined target client profile is that it allows you to put out solid content in there for your website and your blog posts and those kind of things, which really helps with your SEO stuff, helps you focus your social media type of posts, because you can lean on posts that make sense for those industries to pay attention to what you're having to say. If you do videos and those kinds of things, you can lean into that, right? If you look at all of the videos that I put out, right, my target client profile is really MSPs, and the folks I want people to watch the video are really largely MSPs, right? Well, all of the content I put out speaks to you as an MSP, right? If you do that for one or two or three different industries that you support, then that is going to allow you to focus your energy there to generate more and more leads in your marketing funnel. I've also mentioned a couple times that you could have a couple different target client profiles, and I think that's perfectly fine. I wouldn't necessarily spread it out real broad, right? I might pick two or three different verticals, and I might try to keep the other parameters, their attitudes around technology, the size of company, and those kind of things as consistent as possible. Because again, you're trying to build efficiencies within your organization. But you can pick a couple different verticals, right? So if you pick, real estate agents and lawyers and some other a third one, you that would work out pretty well, right? The key that you want to make sure to avoid is to try to avoid leaning into things that you know might be more on the volatile side of the world, right? So if you think back to 2008, when we had all the housing issues, right? All the mortgage lenders, everything, basically anything related to real estate and construction stuff was really turbulent for a while, right? Not to say you don't go after those folks, but I wouldn't necessarily go after a bunch of those folks and then pick another turbulent industry, right? A couple other turbulent industries worth mentioning are things that were impacted in the COVID era, right? So things like hospitality. Hospitality is always a little bit topsy-turvy, just because of the nature of the industry itself, but also it can be negatively impacted by external forces as well. Things like oil and gas were also impacted, right? And those things can fluctuate a lot more and a lot faster based on kind of the global economy. So I'm not saying don't avoid any in particular industry, but maybe don't pick a bunch of two or three like highly volatile industries. Maybe pick one that's a little bit more calm when the seas are a little bit rough, right? Those are things to think about a little bit. Now, there are a couple misconceptions when we talk about TCP, right? And when we think about your target client profile, two things come to mind. The first one is, look, I'm gonna reduce the amount of leads I'm gonna get because I'm only focusing on a specific thing. And the short answer of that is that's just wrong. It's not the right thinking. You want to aim at a very specific target because it allows you to really focus those marketing and prospecting efforts. And when you focus those marketing and prospecting efforts, it really allows you to get the most bang for your buck. So don't worry about having a TCP like eliminating leads from your funnel, because oftentimes what happens is MSPs aim way too broadly and their message isn't clear to really anybody. You're just saying, hey, I fix computers, right? That's not, I mean, yes, of course you fix computers, but that's only a little tiny piece of what you do. And if you can't get past the, hey, I fix computer side of the world, you become commoditized, right? And one of the things that you want to do is know and lean into your expertise in the industry, and expertise in a vertical really will help you in that regard. The second question is, and I've heard this a lot, is, well, what if I get a referral or I stumble across a client or a prospect that isn't in my target client profile? So what? Do you want to work with them? Do they fit your other thing? Do you feel like you can support them well? If the answer to those questions are yes, then you can go ahead and support them. Having a target client profile doesn't mean you exclude everybody else, right? I mean, sure, it could be if that's a thing you want to do, but you don't have to. Just because you define one doesn't mean you can't take a referral from somebody else that you can otherwise support well, right? So if you know that you can support this prospect that comes in because it's a referral, yeah, take on the prospect. You don't have to, say no because it's not exactly in your target, as long as you can support it well. Two quick bits of information. One, I have a newsletter that I send out every single month. It's all about things I'm seeing in the industry, some thoughts and some other tidbits that I don't necessarily share in these videos all the time. And thing two is I actually have a brand new podcast with a good friend of mine. Natalie Hell and I are putting together a podcast that actually will be in this feed, but you can also get it in your podcatching applications, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and the like, where we talk a lot about kind of day-to-day MSP stuff, things that we see in the industry and our peer groups and all those different things. So tune into those podcasts, check out the newsletter, and thanks for being here. Picking a target client profile does not minimize your opportunities for finding new clients. In fact, it maximizes them. It really gives you a whole lot more ability to focus in on generating enough interest in your MSP, enough interest in what you have to say and sell, that it really sets you up for success. So go ahead and define a nice narrow TCP, and allows you to really do a much better job. And while you're thinking about this TCP stuff and marketing and all those things, I'm going to throw a couple of videos up here. The first one's going to be all about the different stages of marketing and prospecting. And then I'm also going to throw up another video entirely about prospecting, right? So two very similar but very important videos for you to take a look at. Thanks for coming on this ramble with me, and hope to see you on the next one.